What's up there, workforce? Chris here with Work to Game, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about how coronavirus is affecting like a lot more than just I don't know, people in that region. Anytime we have a tragedy, whether it be a natural disaster or an outbreak of something, there's kind of two reactions that we can have. And then we'll get to like how this affects Final Fantasy and Sony, and obviously the most important things in life, gaming. But in all seriousness, like coronavirus is another example of when there's tragedy somewhere else in the world that it affects all of us. As we start to see, it starts out and it's just a question of like, well, how are governments going to respond? Are they going to try to like play it down like it's nothing? Are they going to kind of warn us all? Like, there's a certain give and take between like protecting people and then preventing panic. And when it becomes international, you have multiple governments and multiple points of view in there. And so, the way one culture and one government might prefer that something is handled is not necessarily the way that it's going to be handled. Because in this case, like looking at the way that it's presented in the US, the United States government and United States culture is very different than Chinese culture and the Chinese government. So naturally, it's handled very differently. You hear things about like reporters, they believe that they were heading to panic. And so like reporters that were initially reporting on it aren't available anymore. Like, so I don't know if they get sent to a prison to kind of hold off, or I don't know. I don't know how all of that works. Now we're starting to see it trickle into news surrounding industries that wouldn't typically cover something like this. Brian and I don't typically talk about anything geopolitical, really political much at all. We don't talk about, religion much. I mean, Brian's faith's really important to him. So like naturally our views on things may slip out from time to time, but we largely view gaming as this bastion of joy that can bring us all together. And we don't have to talk about all that other stuff, because sometimes we can have a reasonable debate around those things, but you can't always know going into these conversations whether or not it's going to be a reasonable debate. So it's just easier to say, like, I can share gaming with friends at points in my life where I disagree with them politically, and I can share it with them at times where we get along. And it's because gaming can be that thing. Gaming can be that unifier. So coronavirus, whatever its fancy name is, CN19 or something that makes it sound a lot more sinister. It's gotten to a point that it is starting to cause cancellations, right? It's not SARS anymore, where it gets memed on a few times in various levels of taste, and it affects a handful of people and it affects travel for a brief amount of time. This isn't Ebola, where it largely affects one community. Other communities panic and act like it's going to affect us. Like in the US, people were really freaked out that they were going to get Ebola, and that just wasn't a real risk. This is something, because of its incubation period, because it can basically lay dormant and spread for, I think it's like 14 days or something. There's a real fear that if it got into a population, if it did spread. So you see things like you see the developer conference in San Francisco saying like they're not going to let Chinese presenters present. And so I assume there's like a refund of money or whatever. And if they have a like Tencent where they're really big, and so they would have other offices throughout the world, they're welcome to send representatives from those offices. But when you talk about companies like Square Enix, where yes, we have a Los Angeles team and things like that, but a huge portion of Square Enix resides in and at least bases partially or full-time out of Japan. And so when you talk about something that part of the world and the way flights work and how, you have layovers in places and stuff like that, when you start to cancel flights from certain destinations, it starts to become very hard to travel from one region of the world to the other really fast. Like, for how connected we all feel, it's a little bit scary when you look up and you realize, wow, if you cut off air travel to Dallas, like our grocery stores, and you started restricting trucks flowing in, like our grocery stores would be out of stock in like 5 to 7 days. These places that are just filled with abundance, like a ridiculous amount of food is on the shelf at all times, and it would just run out. And so like we're always kind of relying on this infrastructure staying up. And so now that coronavirus is affecting this, it's starting to affect gaming. It's starting to affect things like Xbox launch, PS5 launch. These things could be delayed. Games, you're starting to see games get delayed. And now you're starting, as we get into conference season, and we look at things like E3 and we look at things like PAX, you're starting to see things like Square Enix just announcing that at PAX East that they were going to be doing, they're going to do basically a live stream from Japan on Saturday, February 29th, and they're canceling the onstage panel. They're canceling the signing sessions. They're canceling aspects of their PAX East attendance, and then they're providing what they can, like the Ruby Weapon Trial is still going to be there, so I assume you're still going to get your t-shirts or whatever that is. But that's canceled. You're starting to see Sony kind of pull out of this stuff, and it really shows the impact of this is much larger than maybe what news coverage is presented. Like here in North America, we were aware of the fires in Australia. They looked like big fires, but we get big fires in California every year, just like Australia gets brush fires pretty often. I don't know if it's every single year, but it's as often as we get fires in California. But when one makes national news, it's because it's really big. But like, I don't know if that goes international. And the fact that the Australian fires went international is because they were like absolutely ridiculous. And the recovery from that is something that long after the news cycle is passed over it will still be going on and will still be felt in some areas for likely years to come. And an individual's lives possibly could change the way they live forever. If somebody loses a home, if you lose a loved one, if you just lost all the photos and stuff in your house, think about everything in your house and you're like, oh, but my stuff's digital. No, computers are gone. Anything that's not in the cloud is gone. It's gone. Your original birth certificate, gone. Your photographs, gone. Collectibles, gone. Any hard copies of video games, gone. And that's just like light stuff. Then you start to factor in, whether or not you lose a pet or a loved one or anything like that. And then that could be a house that was in your family for a while. Like these things are tragic. And so whether they're natural disasters or in this case a disease, it's a lot. And so I just wanted to kind of stop and think about that and think about how it impacts us. I think I look at it and I try to empathize, and then I go on with my life. And I've been watching this and I'm aware of it, but I'm aware of it like I assume the rest of the world is aware of when there's a fire in the US or when we have something going on politically. Like, yeah, CNN covers it, so it gets broadcasted out to the world for everybody that speaks English. And we kind of just dump our dirty laundry out for the world to see. But it didn't probably affect their daily lives, just like coronavirus really hasn't affected mine. I didn't have any trips planned to that region. I didn't have anything. I don't have any loved ones in that region. So like, yes, I'm aware of it, but like, I guess I don't feel like it's any bigger than if there's an oil spill or something like that. And it's just not the same. Like there are possibly tens of thousands of people losing their lives to this, or will. It's the number of cases is swelling, and there's people saying like, oh, well, the flu killed more people. It's like, yeah, but look at the infection rate. Like if you're infected with one versus if you're infected with the other, the flu infects like 15 million people a year. And so for it to kill a very small percentage is still a large number. This has a much higher fatality rate. This wrecks people. And so I don't know if there's anything we can do. I don't know if there's charities I can link to. I don't know. But I do know that like just being more cognizant, just being more aware, like if we as a culture are more aware, that's a step in the right direction. So I just wanted to kind of talk about this. It's not really a bright and shiny topic. The reason that it hit my mind today is sadly not because there was news about progress, good or bad. There wasn't. I wasn't looking at those news sites. I was trying to brighten my day, so I was looking at gaming sites. And as I look at gaming sites, I'm seeing people cancel trips. I'm seeing Square Enix cancel part of their presence at PAX East. And so as I see these things get canceled, that's sadly what it took to remind me of this. So Thank you guys. I hope you guys are having a great day, and I hope that you have a safe week, and hopefully this is something that just kind of helps you go out there and stay a little more aware of the world. I know it's something that I continually have to work on, or I can just hole up in my bubble and only worry about the things that affect directly me. So I'll see you guys next time. Thanks. Take care.
Hey, you! Especially if you're a new face, welcome to the workforce. If you want to hit that subscribe button to say you like us, we'd really appreciate it. But there's a little bell next to it if you really like a channel, and you can go ahead and hit that if you'd like to be notified. Be sure that if that thing lets you know, hey, do you always want to be notified, or you just sometimes want to be notified, that you tell it, oh man, I actually meant by notified. So why don't you give that a click, and we hope to see you around in our next video.